Baseball history changed forever today. Major League Baseball officially incorporated so-called Negro Leagues statistics into its record book. And that means some new names in the sport's all-time register. Look at this graphic. 5 names now added among the top 10 career batting average leaders, including a new #1, Josh Gibson. Let's talk about this with someone who is in the Baseball Hall of Fame because of his greatness as a pitcher, Canada's Ferguson Jenkins, who hails from Chatham, Ontario. Fergie, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to it. It should be an interesting conversation for sure.
Well, tell me about this. Tell me about how you're feeling about this day.
Well, I think it's what it's done. It's going to enhance baseball history because the Negro League was a popular league for a lot of players of color back in the 20s and 30s. And I think that youngsters who really don't know that much about baseball will get that opportunity to maybe read about some players that they just heard of but never seen. You know, Buck O'Neill started the Kansas City Negro League Museum there, and he's featured so many great players. And I think that they'll have an opportunity to read about them and see what these young men were able to do when they started playing baseball.
And you can count on one hand, right, the number of living Negro League ball players. How do you think they feel and their children and their grandchildren must be feeling today?
Well, I think that the history of the game, and a lot of these kids can brag about their grandfathers playing in the Negro League. I think that one time there was a little over 45 teams, and they would always have an East-West All-Star game in Chicago, Kaminsky Park. So now I think that opportunity to read about your grandfather, or maybe someone that you know of, that they were having the opportunity to play in those games, and were pretty good players back then in the 20s and 30s.
And your own story. Your father was a star in Ontario for what was called the Chatham Colored All-Stars. You must have been thinking about him earlier today.
Yeah. You know, my dad came to Chatham, like you say, in the 30s. And he barnstormed with Flat Chase and Eddie Robinson and so many other players that were from different cities, from Leamington, Windsor, Dresden, Shrewsbury. And they all played, were very comfortable playing on the colored All-Stars. And their main backer was Archie Sterling, who was the mayor of Chatham at the time.
And it wasn't easy for your dad's team, right? Even in Ontario, which, you know, it's not exactly the deep South.
No, I think they barnstormed. People wanted to see them play, but there was always some protests from time to time that if they were on the field, they'd protest the game. They didn't want to play against players of color. You know, it's just something that changing of the times. And I think that when they won some OBA championships, I think people really realized that they were a crowd-pleasing group of guys that played good baseball and were successful.
Let's talk about that success a little bit more, because how do you think this could reinvigorate the debate over the greatest players of all time?
Well, I think the batting averages, fielding averages, and who they played for will be a striking conversation piece when it comes to fold, because of the fact that there were so many teams in Canada playing, along with the teams in Michigan. Because I know I remember Flat Chase used to always talk about the Detroit Stars, that he always wanted to play against them because, you know, Windsor's right across the border from Detroit, and he wanted to prove that he was as good a player as a lot of these guys on the Stars. And there's a lot of history that have said that Flat Chase hit some balls so far out of parks, they couldn't find the ball.
And our viewers may know you are a Cy Young Award winner, the best pitcher in the National League in 1971, the first Canadian. Do you think if we had all the Negro League stats, it could have been the Satchel Paige Award, for instance?
You know, I've been mentioned sometimes with his particular career. I started well over 500 games. I think I pitched in 600 plus ball games because I was a relief pitcher at the beginning of my career. But Satchel Paige pitched in over 1,000. And now, how many Barnstorm wins do you think he had? I'm not sure if it's even written down as many games as he pitched in. How many games did he really win? You know, Cy Young won 512. One year he had 45 to 47 starts. That's incredible. So I think when these printed documents get put in a book or let kids read about them, they'll be surprised that so many of these players played as long as they did because they love the game.
Fergie, it was a real pleasure talking to you about this today. Thank you very much.
Well, my pleasure. I think that it's important to have things in history done, and I think that it's going to be interesting when it really gets popular.
Fergie, thank you. Fergie Jenkins, the first Canadian elected to baseball's Hall of Fame.